First Solar has been one of the most successful companies in the solar industry. They've got a market cap over $20 billion. They're one of the few companies that has been profitable most of the last 10 or 15 years. But I think there's a lot of reasons for investors to be alarmed at the trends at First Solar. So you not only have the potential debate about subsidies, not only direct subsidies from the Inflation Reduction Act that First Solar got. Those numbers are really big. I'll go through exactly the scale of those, but those are absolutely tremendous subsidies that First Solar has been one of the biggest beneficiaries of. But also, it doesn't look like demand is very strong for First Solar's products. So I want to go through both of those trends and why I think the valuation is a little bit alarming today. My name is Travis Hoium. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all my content. And thanks to this video sponsor, The Motley Fool. If you go to fool.com/ASYM, they'll give you their top 10 stocks to buy right now. Let's first look at First Solar's momentum, because what you can see here is one of the hottest stocks in the solar industry. Shares are up 260% over the past 5 years. So that's a really strong run for the company. But let's look at some of the subsidy numbers, because I think these should really jump out to investors. The gross margin, this is the 2024 guidance for First Solar as of the third quarter earnings report. And you can see that gross margin now expected to be right around $2 billion, $1.95 to $2.0 billion. But more than half of that, 1.02 to 1.05, is from Section 45X tax credits. That is credits or subsidies that came from the Inflation Reduction Act, and it is direct money that is going to be benefiting First Solar. So it has to do with building solar panels in the US, assembling them in the US, building cells in the US. There's all kinds of different items depending on what you're making. This involves batteries as well. So First Solar is going to be one of the biggest beneficiaries because they have the most capacity in the US. But then look at their operating margin. Operating margin 1.48 to 1.54 billion. Now, if you subtract this subsidy number, their real operating margin beyond subsidies is only about $480 to $500 million. So the operating margin for a company that's worth $20 billion is only about $500 million per year. That's a pretty big multiple to be paying for a company like First Solar that may not be growing. So let's get to that piece of the picture. This is actually from a year ago, the October 31st, 2023 quarter. This is when there was a ton of momentum behind First Solar stock because there was these IRA benefits that were coming into effect, and there was a boom in demand. 64.1 gigawatts of backlog the company had at the end of 2022. Just 9 months later, there was about a 30% increase in that backlog to 81.8 gigawatts. What has happened since then? That backlog has dropped. So it dropped a little bit by the end of 2023, and now it is down to 73.3 gigawatts. At the same time, First Solar is bringing on a ton of capacity. So they're finishing out multiple plants in the US, with the Alabama facility coming on in the third quarter and Louisiana expansion expected to be coming online soon. Here is the other thing to worry about. First Solar always gives an idea of what the opportunity is, total booking opportunities. So this is from a year ago. Again, this is 2023. There was 65.9 gigawatts of opportunities. 32.5 gigawatts of that was mid to late stage opportunities. So those are a little bit closer to actually becoming reality. These are more ideas. We're actually figuring out what is the financing going to look like, where are we going to site this project, what sort of solar panels are we going to buy. So mid to late stage opportunities. A year ago, this is the big number, 32.5 gigawatts. This is the most recent update to the potential bookings. A bigger number for long-dated total booking opportunities, but a much smaller number, only 23.5 gigawatts of mid to late stage opportunities. So the market, the demand for solar panels is shrinking. Subsidies are going up, but demand for solar panels is going down. Now, the company has a ton of backlog that it's going to be able to work through over the next year or two. But what happens after that? What happens in 2027, 2028? Are we going to see a repeat of the mid-2010s when margins collapsed for not only First Solar, but everybody else in the solar industry? I think that is distinctly possible given the trends that we see here, especially if those IRA subsidies go away. Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/ASYM for the top 10 stocks to buy right now. Now, the big challenge is that multiple things can be true here. the solar industry itself can be continuing to grow at a really rapid rate, especially in the US. But First Solar may not be the biggest beneficiary. And part of that is this was a company that had the most manufacturing capacity when a lot of those subsidies were added. They were not necessarily subsidies that were for new capacity. They included existing capacity. So First Solar got a huge benefit just from being the biggest manufacturer in the US, and then they added to that. But they're not the only company building in the US. There are other companies who are now assembling solar modules in the US. There's other manufacturing capacity coming onshore. There's some work being done in Mexico. So these subsidies are not going to be exclusive to First Solar forever. When there's subsidies like this that are available, especially when they amount to billions of dollars, there's going to be other companies that are coming in and taking advantage of those subsidies. So that's, I think, part of what we're seeing when you look at First Solar's demand and the future bookings come down is developers. If you're developing a project that's going to come online in 2027, 2028, you know that there's going to be much more competition for those solar panel sales than there was 12 months ago. 12 months ago, it was really First Solar's game, and there was really nobody else who was going to benefit from all of the money that was flowing into the industry from a subsidy perspective. So they were going to be able to beat everybody else on price. They also didn't have to deal with tariffs. But that game has changed because of the subsidies and the supply that's coming online in the US. Demand may also be down a little bit, and we'll see what happens with things like the tax credit. But if there's not the mandates under the next administration or the tax credits, remember that was extended as well. Those credits were supposed to go down to 10% and then disappear for some solar project. Those were typically smaller solar projects, but even for big solar projects, those subsidies, that 30% tax credit, was not supposed to be where it is today. So that may come down in the future. We'll see what Congress decides to do. That's going to be something that's going to be up to Congress. And there's a lot more people, and there's a lot of southern states that have benefited from solar energy, but all of these subsidies and the drop in demand should raise alarm bells for First Solar investors. And this is a stock that I think has gotten the benefit of the doubt for a very long time, but may not deserve it based on the numbers that we're seeing today. So we'll see how things play out for First Solar. This may be an industry that continues to grow, but remember, a lot of companies, a lot of solar companies have gotten into financial trouble over the past decade. Many of them have gone bankrupt, even in solar manufacturing. So this is not a guaranteed win for investors. So keep those red flags in mind. But let me know what you think about First Solar and the solar industry in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to Asymmetric Investing. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you here next time. Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/ASYM for the top 10 stocks to buy right now.